Again in studio, this time about different forms and possibility to heal everything and everyone. Also to think about London and the trouble there. And now also some seconds to think about silence. Of course, it's not easy to be in silence, and how hard it's to listen to the silence. So now you can really understand how hard it is for people to understand Taoism or people that are meditating all days, all weeks, all months, and all the years. You should be bored when you see Tao. To understand different forms of Germany, France, but also Europe is not easy. Especially the old your culture is very difficult, and for some Americans, some sort of very difficult to understand French people. Of course, in France, there is a lot of elegance and a lot of beauty across the different forms, together with simple forms. Not easy to understand different forms of needs of French people, but also the needs of American people about the different forms of what they need in their life. To understand that 90% of population in America is actually drinking beer, or they are addicted with different forms of caffeine and coffee, but also with different forms of sugar. It's not easy to understand those forms. To understand different forms of commodity in this world is not easy, but also to understand better journey of your life. Once you introduce yourself to better life, the word technique is for better life, it's not easy, but also to understand better products together with technology, but also the culture of the world, to understand the different forms together with psychology, together with the different forms of life is very important. There are also millions of salts in this world, and to understand them all is not easy. Especially you should not think about other psychology. And if you are thinking about any form of medicine, that's in fact tea medicine and nothing else when it comes to mouth. To understand silence, but also the silence with yourself in every zone in this world, it's not easy. There are many workers in this world and a lot of people. In fact, 90% of our population that wish deeply to work, and some even to work harder for their money. To understand that money is some sort of debt, it's very important. Once you understand that the world also have debt, like America have the debt and Europe have some, you will start to collect gold. Some people even think there are millions of different materials, and the gold is not as much important if you are thinking from the form of constructions. Some people are also buying property, but that's not the best solution for those that have really a lot of fortune. To understand that fortune is not money, but a book. If you are an author, it's very important. Of course, there are millions of terms for those that work in print sector. To invest in print is very hazardous, but for some people also understandable. And of course, there are different forms of solutions for workers and what is appropriate for them. Every worker in this world, of course, deserve respect, but they will get the bonus for their work. And of course, if you can build millions of products for people in this world, especially if you can support the Africa with your products, you must understand that it's very important to build difference in this world, but also the solution for those that work in print sector, to understand significant value of different forms, but also that people drink coffee every day and they are addicted to work. It's very important. So you are going to build a much better solution and how people could work. To understand Egypt, Libya, and Algeria, Mali, all those from poor Africa, also Sudan and Kenya. But you must understand if there will be more simple store print solution in Africa, the Africa would not be as poor as we think. To understand Angola, Togo, Liberia, but also different forms of Senegal, and some already have my book, but not every of those places. Of course, me only use English, but some might also think to translate some part in African strange ancient language. To understand the tea there, it's not easy. And in Africa, there are very diverse culture indeed. To understand water in Africa is not easy. And the local forums in Africa are very, very diverse. To understand different forms of beverage together with different forms with what we see on the posters, but also to respect different store and to see millions of different bottles in local forms and to understand all those millions of houses and millions of materials, how they are built, together with Feng Shui construction, but also to understand different cups of tea, together with some beans and vegetable. Not easy to understand different forms of milk also, but we would actually suggest to avoid milk if you don't want too much milky trouble. To understand different forms of Milky Way, which is of course a constellation, is also not easy. And if you think about this whole psychology me explained, you might be slightly confused what it is all about. The truth is very strange that the most popular things and constructions actually are not effective from the health point of view as you see in modern time. To have respect to some simple forms, it's not easy together with the tea. There is millions of toxic girls in this world that they want more and more visual forms, but that's not everything. To understand different forms in life, it's not easy, especially in UK, because in UK 80% of people, especially in bigger cities, actually enjoy a lot of caffeine and a lot of sugar, which is some sort of cancer in this world. To heal that is not easy, but also to understand different forms of potential for tea and the tea simple markets. It's not easy because they are going to go cheaper and cheaper. You are going to get them from the Asia and from the Egypt and from America. And all those tea are going to become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. All those forms of the tea are not easy to understand that people, also people under 35, should actually enjoy more tea. But of course, people under 45 do not spend on tea, but they are actually investing in alcoholic drinks, which is the disaster of modern pyramid. To understand those forms, it's not easy, but me would suggest there should be million time more styling in this sector when it comes to anything related to lungs. Of course, it's not easy to build different forms of simple triangular T molecule form if you are going to build your brand of tea. To understand different forms of ABC trends, it's not easy, but there is no similarity between one tea and other if you think with different forms of the catalog for different forms of the tea. To understand different forms in life is very important, but also to understand simple form together with niche tea brands. Of course, the tea brands can heal any disease of lungs, but if the tea brands can do that, of course, the tea is some sort of medicine. To understand different forms of the functions together with fiction maps is also important. And also to build some functions together with the code viewer decoder. In the domain of different forms of tea, it's not easy to understand different psychology, but also different forms of periods in your life. The tea can actually build better partners in any financial sector. Of course, disasters in financial sectors are unlimited. And of course, known people do not do a lot. Together for poor. To understand different fonts of tea is not easy, but also to build better Egypt, Sudan, and Libya. And that's not simple process. If you are building your bank bigger and bigger, from $1 to massive $5 and more, maybe some people even sold enough of products or have enough of picture, so they build millions of dollars. If you build that, you also think how you would share the picture with the Africa or with the world. Of course, you can actually make the price for your picture. And your price can be around $1 million, but no one is going to purchase your picture for that amount. Some picture you are making about yourself are actually part of you. To understand a noise or any forms of the sound in Africa, it's not easy because that might be the sound of every leader in this world. Once humans give the sound, everything become without meaning. Even leaders, when they talk, the biggest speeches, all those legendary speeches are worth nothing because they are not supporting the life of poor people. Sometimes, much more important to have conversations about stocks and commodities or banks. Sometimes it's more important to have the real chat about Africa, but those chats are some sort of inappropriate. So you can find them on very rate, maybe unrated places, maybe the places you could never imagine, maybe some sort of extreme difficult forms of visuals, but also to understand there is also some noise. What if noise do not mean anything? What if any sound in this world do not have any meaning? Even those that make a lot of fortune with sound. To understand different forms in this life, it's not easy. There was a lot of picture of the days made with different forms of extreme movie. But of course, there are terms when it comes to me around millions of terms of elegance if it's any movie. Not easy to understand different forms of beautiful people in this world. Every human or every figure in this world have something special in them. Some people are more known and some people are not known, but the real life are people that are not known. Sometimes it's very important to build simple life. If human could not build a simple life, sometimes there are problems. And if there are problems, problems can grow in bigger and bigger problems. In life, it's very important to understand simple forms. And the simplicity there is also in Taoism. Taoism is actually some sort of crazy thing because it's completely mute. There is no sound at all. But of course, when it comes to fortune or advanced work in this life, people build self careers. Those are not easy, are made from millions of the makeups. Some people even dare to make book or to print book for others or even represent the authors with this extremely respected thing. To understand different forms in life, it's not easy, but the beauty is in book, not in outlooks. People that look, the outlooks or how something look, those things are very strange and old. To understand the looks in life, it's not easy, and also the fiction maps in life have some looks, but those are extreme illusion. Of course, there are also some global laws, but on the global scale, you can actually think about yourself, or don't you think that on global level, you are the law and nothing else? Of course, sometimes it's very important to think diverse, and this world is some sort of Africa. The world banks are some sort of myself. But if you can support everyone, if you could support entire Africa, what kind of style you are going to choose? It's not easy to think about that.